Okay, great. Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm really excited to continue with today's session. Please do remember to use the chat function or raise your hand if you have any questions during the Q&A portion of this next presentation. It is my pleasure to introduce our next presenter, Dr. Ahmed Al-Jaishi. Ahmed is a research scientist and adjunct professor in the Department of Epidemiology and Biostats at Western University and adjunct scientist at ICES. He's also lead curriculum developer for the Pragmatic Trials training program, and he will be walking us through a live demonstration of the AI-supported process for module development. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Ahmed Al-Jaishi. And please, as mentioned again, please do direct any questions to the chat, and we'll try to address them as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I think everybody should be able to hear me. So I'm actually going to start with a little bit of interaction with the people in the chat. So today's while I'm talking, if I can just get you guys to open up your chat, and I'm going to ask you a question. Today, what I want to talk about is a module on how do we create modules on a weekly basis. So for any of those who are not familiar with the program, once a week throughout the last year, we have posted a module that is related to the curriculum wheel that you see in front of you. And a lot of the content is generated by AI, voiced by AI, and video edited by a human and released on a weekly basis. So maybe if I can get people in the chat to maybe guess on the time commitment that it takes for us to produce those modules, from content creation to publishing the content on the website and on uh, YouTube. What are some guesses? Just curious on what people's thoughts are before we start. For those in the
Do
sorry,
you
go
mean
ahead.
like with the AI support, or do you mean before you started using it?
The whole process from the with AI support.
Okay.
So got some people saying 4 to 3, 4 to 8, 3 to 4, 24 hours, 5 to 10, 12 hours, 3 days. How about people in the room?
Like
All right. Okay, so
5 to 10.
5 to 10. Okay. How about you, Nicole? I guess me might have that's in the module, so it's okay. All right. Tyler is in the program. What do you think? Okay. And I guess it depends on whether you need to make the base content or not. The base content is generated by AI. All right. So we got anywhere from 3 to 4 to 24 hours to 3 days, which are all good guesses. So I'll tell you as we go through. All right, so of course, obviously, before any content was generated early on, before we even generate the content, we built a syllabus based on the curriculum wheel, and so everything that we produced was anchored in this curriculum wheel where we discuss where it goes anywhere from intent and research question, trial design implementation, statistics, ethics, trial materials, all the way to financing and resources, which we have not covered yet in detail this so far in the program. And the whole point of this is obviously, we want any module that we produce to be anchored to the core domains. We want to ensure that we have a comprehensive coverage of all the trial materials, and we want to make sure that all the materials through the curriculum is aligned with the curriculum wheel. So a lot of you, obviously, who have gone through the program have seen these modules. So just to give you an idea of some of the content, so from the first few main topics from the modules. For example, for the intent and question, we talk about explanatory versus pragmatic trials, how to craft your pragmatic trial question, what are some feasibility and partner input when you're developing your question, and we went into trial design and so on and so forth. Um, each um, main content, we have a set number of modules that we want to cover. And each module takes anywhere between 5 to 20 minutes. Sometimes we've had modules close to 30 minutes for the week. There are other topics that are not produced here. So this is just one um, part of the syllabus. So for each module that we produce, so for example, the one example objective here we is for the first module, looking at explanatory versus pragmatic trials. We have to specify an objective, and the objective needs to be, a single measure objective per module, and it needs to be action oriented, and it needs to have a measurable outcome. So I'll read the example objective here that we have for the first module that we produced. And the idea is this module introduces the spectrum of clinical trials from explanatory efficacy to pragmatic effectiveness. Participants learn how pragmatic trials are conducted under typical real-world conditions to produce results applicable to practice, whereas explanatory trials test interventions in ideal controlled settings. We talk about the key concepts that we want to cover, and we talk about the specific learning objectives that we want to cover in this module. Um, For every objective that we produce, we need to create a large language model prompt. So that's what you see on the right hand side of your screen. And we tell the AI, in this case is ChatGPT, exactly what we want to create. So as an example, again, for this specific objective, we said, create 20 content for 25 PowerPoint slides for this module. We attached specific content that we wanted it to use. This is really important to make sure that we're steering the content in a specific direction that we want it to go. Um, for step 3, we asked it to produce the content of the slide and also include presenter script. Later on, I actually showed that we tended to move away from asking it to produce a script for each module because we found the quality of the script when using the deep search is actually not very good. And I'll talk about how we are started doing it in for more recent modules. And for any of the slide to suggest a graphic if it's applicable or appropriate media. And early on, we asked it, to create an initial hook that, you know, kind of draws the learner in, something that may not be related, but kind of brings the learner to say, wait, how does this relate to the content? Um, if there are specific things we want to avoid, we say, avoid this word and use this word instead. And then we provided the objective that I talked about in the slide before. This process um, can take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours because the objective needs to be very specific. We go over it several times and we iterate some of the prompts. So something that's maybe generated might not be relevant. So we need to, the same prompt can be submitted multiple times. So for the last prompt that I put up on the screen, it took 27 minutes to run. It identified 16 relevant citations, and it it did about 195 searches, and it produced a pretty comprehensive report, talking about the key concepts, What are supporting evidence for those concepts? Um, it provides real world examples. So this might be trials related to along the pragmatic explanatory spectrum and for illustrations. And it also provided a structure for the sequence of slides throughout the module. Um, from there, so we use the content generated by this pretty comprehensive report, and we produce the content of each slide. So this would include the title, the bullet points for each slide, and the visual diagram, which as I talked about earlier. Ideally, it's one concept per slide. Um, we specify the audience level, and we try to make it very concise, so it doesn't just go on and drag on. Then comes the first time consuming step. So all the content that's produced by the ChatGPT or whatever large language model is taken and is put into the Gamma app. So this is um, uh, the media that I'm using right now. And I'll show you just a quick demonstration of how it works. And Gamma uses its own large language model to produce content. So the slide that you're seeing was initially, this is what the initial slide looked like. And this is obviously what you see on the screen is what a slide currently looks like. So we might change the content, we might change the graphic, we might change the title. Everything can change from the content that's being generated. And this first iteration of generating slash edit or editing the content can take anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. And again, we could be removing inaccuracies. Example for terminology, we could be removing hallucinations. There's sometimes missing nuances that we might add or remove, and we sometimes have to like combine multiple slides because it's just repetitive information. We want to make sure that the slide content is aligned with the module objective, and almost always we have to fix formatting. Um, Sometimes we edit or replace the generated visual. So again, in the slide that's example slide that's on your right hand side is what was produced by Gamma, and obviously not really relevant. So he changed that by replacing it. So just to give you an idea of what this looks like. So um, everybody is able to create a Gamma account. Um, just take this. Once you've logged in and you say create a new Gamma, you're asked to what kind of presentation you want to create. So you can generate from a simple prompt. You can paste in the text that you want the AI to use. You could use a specific template, or you can import files that you want. We've already done this one using ChatGPT, so I'm just going to say I'm going to paste in the text that I want. And you can tell it what you want to create, whether it's presentation, web page, document, social media, graphics, and so on and so forth. You can change the card size that you want. So normally I just do traditional, and then you can paste in all of the content that you want to produce. So again, this is already generated by ChatGPT, and it's separated by the slide number. Um, so from there, you can choose whether you want to generate notes from the outline. This is usually what I choose, and or you can say preserve the same exact text. For this example, I'm just going to say generate based on the notes. From there, you just say continue with the prompt. You can add more details here if you want, but I'll get to that. Here you can say what kind of information you want to produce. Do you want to be minimalist? So just produce like very concise bullet points. You can do detailed, so it can elaborate on the points that you have, or you can do extensive, which is basically paragraph based. Um, you can also add the tone if you want. You can specify a specific theme. Um, Actually, normally it has our themes custom. Let's ignore that for now. Normally it has our own theme that we would have used, and whether you want to the specific source of image. So we never almost go with any of those. We just usually do illustrations and we replace those. And we click, then we review all of the contents again, and we say, um, this is add cards. Oh, there. You can specify the number of cards that you want, and then you go ahead and click generate. And it will generate all the content that you're seeing. So this is obviously, I've already created this presentation, so we won't go through this, but it goes through all of the content live, and you can, review it as it goes, or you can just come back in 5 minutes and review all the slides one at a time. So I will go back to the main presentation here. I'll just close this.
Ahmed, one really quick question just came out. Like, what? I guess you said we could all get this program or start using this program, but how much is the like Gamma program or the version that you're using? How much would that cost? Or is it free?
Um, so I believe Gamma gives you a pretty generous. Um, there's a free version which gives you, I think, 10 cards per presentation, or a certain number of, I think, 200 credits. I'm not sure what that. I think each slide is about 10 to 20 credits. And but you can the program that we have in terms of pricing, I believe it's around 200 to 300 for the whole year.
Okay,
So, and basically it's unlimited from our perspective.
right. Great, thanks.
Oh. So again, we review all the content that you saw was generated, and that this can take anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. After that, we generate a script. So this is probably the most time-consuming step, and it can take anywhere from 10 to 16 hours. Um, this might involve one or two people, one one person generating the script and another person reviewing it, and so on and so forth. So for each slide that you saw in the gamma that was generated after it's done edited, we take a screenshot of that slide and we upload it into ChatGPT or another large language model, and we ask it to basically create a 150 word script for that slide, make sure it's jargon free, make sure that it transitions smoothly with any slide before and after it, natural conversation tone, and aligns with the module objective. So this is already has the context of the deep search, and now we're asking it to generate the script so that it's always aligned with the initial objective that we proposed. To give you an example of some script generation, the top part of the script is the initial script that was generated by the AI for one of the previous modules, where it described a specific trial that was we discussed in the one of the data safety monitoring board. Um, so the AI, without context, just jumped into the trial and it talked about its objective and what they were trying to answer. But obviously, for anyone without any background of the trial, it's like, okay, well, why did they ask the trial? What was the evidence before the trial started? So we we had to prompt it and create additional script to talk about what was the evidence, what was the background. We also have to work with it to add special speech tags. So if we want to pause, we say insert short pause here. If we want to be excited, we have to tell it, be excited in this part, and this is where you stop. If you want to be thoughtful, you have to say, speak in a certain way. And sometimes for example, it might not say something correctly. So in the first module, it could not say press E2 wheel for the life of it. So we had to like go through every single iteration of press E2 and spell it out on how it should say that word. I think in this module actually is I think this is share trial, but it kept on calling it chair trial. And um, I just let it be because I wasn't sure um, which pronunciation was the correct one. So that's another thing that we sometimes have to work through. So again, this the script generation component is extremely um, uh, it's a huge it's a big bottleneck. It requires domain experts. It requires an understanding of sequential coherence, and we want to make sure that we limit redundancy of slide content and avoiding the verbatim um, speech from or reading from the current slide. After uh, the script has been generated, we move the we move to audio generation. So this can be time consuming because again, you have to listen to each audio multiple times. It usually takes us 1 to 2 hours. If you have any background with coding or programming, you can use API calls for this, which makes it much, much faster. Otherwise, you would have to copy and paste each script into the program that we use, which is called 11 Labs, and we upload the script, which you see here, and then we specify which voice we want to use. There are different models that you can use for audio generation. Some are more expressive, some are more neutral. You can also specify at least how creative you want to be, or um, so if you bring the slider all the way here, it's kind of on a more creative side. So generating audio from generating more than one audio can have completely different sounding speech. Or if you want more robust, then it's kind of more consistent um, uh, narration from one generation to the next. Again, for each script, we have to add speech tags. We clarify the pronunciation, any intonation, and we want to make sure that the pace of the speech is fairly um, so slow enough for learners to comprehend, but quick enough for that we're going to have some engagement and people are not signing off. Um, At that point, most of the content has been generated. So now comes the second, probably most time consuming step, which is the video editing. So here, anyone who's done any video editing, this process can take, depending on your experience, and I'm not very experienced at all. It can take anywhere from 4 to 8 hours. So here we're working with slide transitions. We're making sure that the audio visual is synchronized across the or module. If there are, zoom ins and zoom outs, it kind of makes sense. We try to remove any distractions. So sometimes, we have to block certain aspects of the slide and so that there's not overwhelming amount of information. And at this step, we might have one or two people review the generated video one or more times to make sure it's coherent. Then we work with Huda, who's our communication expert, who generated the slide. This one actually was generated by me because I didn't ask her early enough to generate a thumbnail. So we work with Huda to generate a thumbnail for the specific slide, and we make sure that the title is clear, the description is accurately capturing the objective, and the thumbnail is visually consistent with the module series. Again, here, this is me, so don't blame Huda if this is bad. Um, so end-to-end timeline, again, literature search can take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. Slide content generation and editing can take anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. Scripting and script generation and editing can take anywhere from 10 to 16 hours. Audio generation can take anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. And video editing can take anywhere from 4 to 8 hours. So overall, the whole process can take anywhere from 20 to 36 hours. So about a full um, week of work. Again, this might be split between two people. So one person might not be spending the entire 36 hours, but overall, the human component of it is about 20, 36 hours. So the main takeaway, honestly, is AI accelerates the content generation, but doesn't replace the human expertise and the validation required. Obviously, human review is non-negotiable because tons of things need to be changed from the content that's produced. Scripts are the most time-consuming and bottlenecks. And the structure that you saw, the 10 steps that we produce, enables us to generate content quickly from week to week. And hopefully we kind of shared with you, some of the documented process that we go through. So I will pause here and I will stop sharing. And if you have any questions about any aspects of the process, um, or anything else, I'm happy to take questions or comments.
Thanks a lot, Ahmed. That was amazing to see, and I think, well, I think most people, with all their guesses initially, with how long it actually took, vastly underestimated how much time it still takes to make each presentation. So thanks for all the work you put into that. There's one really quick question to get the chat going, and everybody, please post your comments in the Q&A, and I can read them out. One quick question, how long did this actually take? You said this accelerates the process, doesn't replace it, but how long did the modules take before you started using AI to generate the video content?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think it would be feasible for us not to use AI because it
Mhm.
would take probably a week just to generate the content. So for anyone who's for like even the slides that we do for presentations can take several days or weeks to generate the content. Um, so I would say this easily can take, 2 weeks of time. So full-time equivalent. So at least double the time that it
Mhm.
would take right now. So I'm happy to maybe I'll put the question to the chat and ask how long does it usually take to make a presentation for any topic that you're interested in. That could be, 10 to 15 minutes. I'll put Kyle on the spot. How long did it take you to generate your slides? Yeah, so I'm not sure if you heard it, a few days for review. And then if you want to practice it, that obviously takes more time. So just
Yeah, no, thanks.
and then I should say, it takes us 20 to 36 hours now, but before we perfected this process, it actually took us 2 to 3 weeks to generate, one module. The first two or three modules, it took about, we started it months in advance, and it took us a lot longer because uh, we weren't necessarily experts with this process by some means.
Yeah. How have you noticed like the changes in the LLM availability within like ChatGPT? Like, have you noticed, quality changes or anything over I
Yeah,
mean, even the last year, like a lot's come out, right? So,
yeah, there's huge changes even from honestly week to week and some from month to month and week to week. Some times it produces really good content, so there's less editing. Um, So the content generation and the hallucination has gone down significantly. I'm less worried now about ChatGPT producing or hallucinating references, whereas I used to be very concerned about it, especially when I'm using the deep research function. So I always have to review the content. Obviously, that's not always been consistent, but the time I spend on editing is a lot less now compared to before.
Right. And just to be clear too, so like your actual images or say infographics or pictures that you're using within the presentations are all generated from Gamma, or are you using ChatGPT for some of the images as well? Or is it
Um,
just more script and planning?
some images I'm generating using ChatGPT. A lot of images I actually get from online, so free images accessible through like stock photos or previous presentations, or I generate them myself. So if it's like, for example, a graph or a flow chart, I'll generate it myself in Canva. Um, sometimes there, sometimes we just use the illustration that's produced by Gamma, because we could be, time constraint, and so we just leave the illustration that's produced by Gamma. Very rarely do I actually use the AI image generation from Gamma. I find it to be um, subpar at best. Nano Banana is really good for image generation from Google. And now with the new ChatGPT AI generation, image generation, it's really, really, really good for producing images, especially if you give it context.
Yeah, that's great to know. I guess so. Gordon Fernie had asked a question. I think you answered most of it, talking about the advantages and time savings. Like right now, what do you see as like the biggest limitation as you're going through all these different programs? Like, what is the most frustrating part as you use
So
these?
the most frustrating part of the process or of the, I'm sorry, this
Yeah,
is,
I'm sort of
uh,
extrapolating from his question. So he was
okay.
asking more about advantages, which I think you covered most of them. But
Yeah.
what is the biggest limitation?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely saving us a lot of time. The content generation is obviously way faster than a human can generate. The amount of searches that it does, within that 30 minute that I even showed, and just collating that information is a huge time saver. Um, do I think it's saving any time over human generating content? Yes, absolutely. Without hesitations, I can say that. I still have to, and that's why collating information is such a big time saver, but that's why you need content expertise in the field. Um,
Hmm.
so I might not be able to generate the content as fast, but I can review the content quickly once it's generated.
Right.
So I think it's saving us many hours of research and um, producing the content for the slides.
Hmm. That's great. I'll just read some of the other comments in the chat. So, Eric Winquist has said, as a learner, I really appreciate the high quality modules. Sierra has asked, can you speak to other uses of the process, such as site training, internal staff training, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think for, site training or staff meetings, again, a lot of times we have many documents already generated, whether it's standard operating procedures or forms that we ask staff to look at, or materials that we might get from the internet. And it's sometimes worth it to go and generate the content yourself to make sure that you have, certain standard, but using AI to give you as an inspiration to give you um uh an initial start, it could be really helpful. So, taking the a lot of the content that's already been produced and putting it into a large language model to quickly create a few slides that are easy digestible, um I think could be really helpful. And again, you don't have to use it. A lot of the content that's produced, we actually end up changing, as you saw in one of the example slides that I showed. The slide that we produced was completely different than the slide that was generated. Um, but it just gives you a starting point. It's less mentally fatiguing, I find.
Okay, Gordon's asked another question. This video will be very useful for producing engagement content for lived experience partners that our group has planned. Can I share this video and process outside of the course?
Yes, please do. And I think this will be posted. This will be posted on our video channel as well.
Okay, excellent. Robin Kidd has asked, what are the rules or best practices for attributing or disclosing the contribution of AI to products like this?
Yeah, so for every module, I believe we have it was suggested actually by one of the learners. Initially, we weren't doing it, disclosing that we were using AI. I think it's very obvious if you hear the speech and their nation. We're just trying to actually tweak it and fine tune it that you'll know it's AI. But we have a caption under each of our learning modules that the AI content is, sorry, the content is AI generated and AI narrated, but there's a human in the loop throughout the entire process. So I don't know if we include it in our YouTube channel description. I think we did initially, but I stopped including it because I'm not sure if YouTube kind of reviews those and kind of uh,
Screen it out, yeah.
down ranks it. So I don't include it on the YouTube description, but I do include it on the website.
Great. Manali said, thank you for developing these weekly learning modules are much appreciated.
Oh, thank you, Manali.
Maybe
On
I
that
can ask
too.
a question. I can ask. You
Oh
can
yeah,
sit back. I can ask you a question.
yeah.
You emulated your voice one time for a few of the modules. So can you describe that and how do you pick your voices for the different modules?
Yeah. Thank you, Emmett. So 11 Lab has a function to clone a voice. It requires a high quality microphone to produce it. Um, you need to technically any voice can be cloned within 2 minutes of audio generation of speech. Um, the higher quality you want it, the more time you need to give as an example. So 11 Lab has the clone voice cloning function that you could use. I did about 30 minutes of audio reading scripts directly from 11 Labs, um, trying to say different things. It still wasn't very good. My wife said it sounds nothing like me. My kids thought it was me. Um, I'm not sure. I personally, I thought it was okay enough to produce and release to everyone, uh, to the entire world. I'm not sure what you guys, for those those who listen to one or two of those presentations, please let me know what you guys thought of it. Emmett, you listened to it. Maybe I'll put you on the spot. What did you think? What do you think I sound like?
Yeah, it didn't sound quite authentic, Ahmed, if I had to say
Yeah.
honestly, but it did sound good. Some of the other voices, I guess, because it's really recorded well or something like when you pick some other voices, just the quality is better, I find. Like you can hear them better. And then what we talked about, some of your videos where you have conversations between two voices, I feel that breaks up the content. And then I think we as humans are interested more in conversations than rather just be pushed information. And I personally find those more engaging. But I'm seeing all over the place and like I'm seeing it on stock reviews. I'm seeing that same format I'm seeing everywhere now for two people talking about a topic. But I feel kind of like overall the production value has, with the time available, the production value has gotten quite substantially better using all these things. And I'm really grateful, Ahmed, for all your leadership and in doing all this and sharing all your techniques with us.
Yeah. Thank you, Emmett. Um, yeah, I think with the voice generation, like I'm still doing trial and error with the different voices from 11 Labs. There's a lot of there's hundreds of voices. And honestly, sometimes it's one voice can sound really good for one module, and the next module will be completely terrible. So you probably have for learners that have been following along the curriculum, you'll notice that we've transitioned to several different voices over time. And I'm not sure if 11 Labs are doing something else in the background, but we're trying to find one or two voices that uh, that can deliver the content in an engaging manner. I agree that my voice generation, I personally didn't. I wasn't happy with the final product, but at that point, I've just wasted so many tokens that I ended up using it.
And then just to elaborate on one other comment, like all the knowledge translation work that needs to be done, like this could really automate that. Like different audiences. Here's the results of the main trial, for example. Can you give me a version that would be very accessible to patient partners, multiple levels of literacy? This you could create all these outputs. Give me something that can go on a tweet. Give me something this, and so that you could really maximize that, because that also takes a fair amount of time. But if it could be done through this process, and then even can you automate some of the patient-facing materials, like infographics, make them even better with the infographic you showed. So I think even for the trial conduct, it could be useful. Um, and then like, you can imagine situations where if it's looking at the data, it can detect safety detection. Like there's a whole bunch of other applications and trials that you could imagine this kind of technology. Or like fraud. Like, sometimes they use central monitoring in trials to make sure that the data is being entered. And if there's one site that's just so weird, they sometimes know there's a problem with the data collection on that site. So that's central monitoring in trials. That's commonly done. But could this be used to automate that or automate finding patients for trials or a whole bunch of but things?
Yeah, so for the content generation, I think, you can easily generate multiple versions or alternate formats depending on um, your audience. So I think AI can really uh, improve that, or you can generate different potential graphics that you can, elaborate. I think that would be really helpful um, for, central monitoring or um, uh, other situations where there's data involved. All of the information that you put into ChatGPT is accessible to OpenAI technically, and it can be used to train their models. So I personally wouldn't use unless it's through the API. I believe anything that's submitted through the API is not quote unquote tracked, so they say. Um, but I would be concerned about that. But if you have some open source model that you have locally, um, and you control it, I think that could be done in a very easy way where you can train it for specific tasks, and fine tune that process to make sure it detects whatever you're looking for.
Right. And then there's something else in terms of the modules, not just on the educational aspects. And I know you've thought about this. Could we use this now to better evaluate knowledge? Like I generate questions or generate some sort of exercises after the module to test knowledge and make sure and enforce knowledge. Like, what are your thoughts on that space?
Yeah, so I do that actually. Um, I think it's really good to say, if I ask this question to the learners, was this answered in my module? I think it's really good for that. Or give me different variation of this question that I could ask. Or if I have a specific wording that I want to use, I could say, ask this question in this specific manner and give me different examples. Um, and that's so trying to get um, feedback from the AI. I think it's really really helpful for that. Um, one thing that's really hard for us is right now is, you know, our channel is still very small, so any type of trying to assess knowledge translation or understanding of the content can't really be evaluated. But as we grow and we're able to, ask the community, did we cover this well enough that for you to understand? I think that would be quite useful.
Sorry, I had a question.
Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm just gonna pass the microphone.
So I just wanted to ask for beginners like us, right, who are trying to develop slides using the same technology. You had a whole section devoted to the kind of prompts that AI needs to shorten the time that it needs to develop the slides, and because it normally takes a huge amount of time to go through each thing. So is there anything, or is there a model to get those prompts, or is that more of a trial and error for everyone?
So I'm happy to share all my modules for anyone who's interested. Please feel free to reach out to the Pragmatic Trials training program, and I'm happy to share any of the prompts that I use, whether it's from the specific prompt that we use for creating the objectives to all the way to the video generation process. For me, it was trial and error, and actually we're still trying to perfect it. Um, Initially, you saw that for the first module, it was very structured. Sometimes it's not as structured because I find it's hard for it to take more than one suggestion or multiple points at a time. Where another thing that I think would be really helpful to automate is one model, for example, let's say ChatGPT generates the content, and a second model reviews that content and acts as a judge or as a reviewer, or you can have multiple iterations of that. So it just speeds that process up. So when that you're reviewing the script, or sorry, the content, it's already been reviewed, quote unquote, multiple times. So that could potentially speed up the process. I think to Emmett's initial point that he mentioned is we could generate a lot faster content. We could automate a lot of it, and we could take this down, so that we do spend under 10 hours for any created module. A lot of these steps could still be automated a lot more, and we have automated some of those steps. So. In terms of prompts, it's really trial and error. It depends on your content. In terms of automation and speeding up the process, you can use more LLM models, ideally from different providers as reviewers, and working that way. It could potentially also improve the quality of the content.
That's great. I just had one really quick question, Ahmed. You talked about like the knowledge translation and trying to get more people to watch the videos outside of the training program itself. How much work goes into, I guess, the description of the videos? Like, you talked about prompt engineering for your actual slides, but for the actual YouTube, like script, whatever you want to call it, description, I guess, like how much work goes into developing that so that it, enhances the number of hits and things like that?
Yeah, honestly, I haven't perfected that because we're still a very small channel. Um, right now, not a lot of time goes into it. I think it's a lot more time should go into it. But sometimes for some weeks, by the time we produce it, um, we need to, publish, for example, the module by, let's say, 12 o'clock on Tuesday. So not enough time goes into it. I'm trying different things with quote unquote clickbait titles. Um, Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Um, so for anyone watching this content, and please do comment if you have suggestions to improve, whether it's a description or the title, because I hate this title. I probably wouldn't click on it, or I love the way you said this way, or even just engaging with the content. That would be appreciated. But more time can go into it, I think, to improve it. And as we grow and learn, I think we'll get better.
Are there any other questions for any of the participants? Comments? Robin Kidd had said, I really like the conversational modules. They definitely held my attention the most. It was also interesting to see them evolve from fewer pauses in the beginning to more natural pauses over time, which impacted attention and brain fatigue during the video. So there has been noticed improvements, which is great.
And that was a suggestion by one of the learners. So I always watch things at like 1.5 or 2.0 speeds. So I don't realize things aren't pausing. especially if I'm reviewing the same module, you know, for the 10th or 15th time. So I don't realize sometimes where there's no module. So one of the learners suggested, you know, it's going a little too fast. It might be good to have, you know, 1 or 2 seconds between slides. So I won't name them, but many thanks to that learner.
That's great. Any other comments, questions? I don't know, are there more people in the room that have questions?
I don't see any questions from here.
Okay.
So
Great.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching and all of the suggestions from the learners and the team here who have improved the quality over time. We're always open to comments, constructive comments and criticism. So please don't be afraid. You won't hurt my feelings. I've been in research for 15 years. I'm used to rejections and used to disappointments. So please provide any suggestions you might have, whether it's to the Pragmatic Trials Training Group or in the comments or an anonymous email. I won't take anything personally.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, maybe with that, maybe we can end a little bit early. So thank you to all of our speakers, panelists, and participants throughout the day for a really thoughtful and engaging day. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We have some presentations from Sabrina Hoa and Marco de Tubino Scanabino. So be sure to check the agenda for full details. And with that, you know, have a wonderful rest of your day, and we hope to see you again tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day.